Hello and welcome to the Tech for Good podcast. We're here to meet the fascinating people who are using technology to drive the change that they want to see in the world. From transforming public services, education and healthcare to confronting humanity's greatest social and environmental challenges. If you're interested in meeting the people who are using technology to change our world, then you are in the right place. Today we find ourselves in Stratford, East London, at the headquarters of the largest independent cancer research organisation in the world. Cancer Research UK can trace its history over 120 years in various forms, but these days it directly funds the work of more than 4,000 researchers and clinicians across the UK, directly impacting patients all over the country, and is involved in more than 200 clinical trials. And it's in the area of clinical trials that we'll focus some of our attention today. Cancer Research UK recently celebrated the national rollout of its new Experimental Cancer Trial Finder, a digital platform that connects clinicians to live cancer trials nationwide. And as far as I understand, it's already proving to be something of a game changer for researchers and especially for patients. Suraj Sengal, if I pronounced your name
That's right.
properly, is here to tell us a bit more about that in particular. And Pete Ainsworth is here as well, who's the charity's head of platform engineering. Now, Cancer Research UK has been on, and is currently still on, quite a big engineering digital transformation that's occurring within the organisation. And I think there's already quite a lot of benefits that we can talk about there. Finally, a very large part of that particular journey involves a wholesale shift to the cloud amongst the application of various other technologies. And in order to do that, Cancer Research UK has partnered with Amazon Web Services. AWS is quite used to expending significant efforts in support of charities and non-profits all around the world. And I believe it's been quite dedicated to that for at least the last 15 years or so, from what I've read. And I'm very happy to say that we're also joined all the way from San Francisco by Alison Freihoff, AWS's Managing Director for Non-Profit and Non-Profit Health. Before we start looking at the things that Cancer Research UK has been up to in particular, let's look at things from a global perspective. Alison, can you give us a bit more of a view of what you and AWS are doing and have been doing for so long around the non-profit sector? How important is it to you?
Thank you so much, Ron. I am so thrilled to be here. At AWS, we believe that nonprofits deserve access to the best cloud technology, and AWS is committed to removing barriers so that our nonprofit customers can take advantage of the benefits of cloud to accelerate their mission impact. And there are tens of thousands of nonprofits around the world who are using the AWS cloud to achieve better outcomes for their communities, for equitable healthcare, for the environment, and for the planet. Organizations like Save the Children, organizations like CARE, and particularly in the UK, we are so thrilled that organizations like Comic Relief and the Natural History Museum, as well as so many others, are involved with AWS and are truly accelerating their missions.
So, well, how would you characterize the journey that a lot of these organizations have been on over the last, I'm guessing, not that many years, because there's a lot of change happening right now that you're supporting people with? How would you describe, generally speaking, what they're doing?
So many organizations, especially during the pandemic over the last couple of years, as you mentioned, have turned to technology to make sure that they can meet their mission goals. And what we see is that technology really allows the nonprofits to actually spend more time on their mission, to do more of the human work, because we can automate so much of the back end and so much of the technology. So we really see organizations being able to move forward in their mission. And I'm so thrilled we're going to hear from Cancer Research UK today, because that's such a great example of laying a foundation for cloud computing. So looking at where their IT resources are being spent and saying, do we really need to keep spending that on a data center that we manage ourselves when we can really use cloud computing more like a utility, almost like electricity, that allows you to have the access to computers, to servers, to network, and even to really high-end capabilities like AI, artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence, and machine learning. And so it's really about having nonprofits use their resources more effectively and more efficiently, and not have to manage the actual servers and a data center and a place where all those servers are kept. That's what we do at AWS with cloud computing.
Great. And so how has all that translated to you over here, Pete? I mean, you've got a transformation that's ongoing, and moving things into the cloud is a big part of that, presumably. Would you like to give us a bit of a backstory about, how long's that been going on, and what have the benefits been so far?
Yeah, so our transformation journey, I'd probably take you back to about 7 or 8 years ago, when as an engineering department, we had several challenges to address. One of the amazing developments at the time was we started to use a product model to break out some of our functionality into dedicated products, so we weren't so reliant on our large CRM monolith. And we built products around specific charity first objectives. So we built our online fundraising product, we built our payments product, which took online donations, and we built our event management product, all significant businesses within the organization. But we faced a number of challenges as a result. Chiefly, we introduced quite a lot of diversity in the languages and technologies that we used, which served a purpose at the time to move at pace, but then ended up restricting the pace of development because it was much harder for example, engineers to share knowledge between them and benefit from innovations that each product were doing. So we set about to address these challenges, and myself and co-head of engineering set in place an engineering strategy that would meet various of these challenges. So the key pillars of that engineering strategy were empowering teams to deliver end-to-end, so enabling them to own the full software development lifecycle, adopting a few common languages and frameworks and tools so that people can develop using those and then share their learning as a result. And then finally, focusing on our engineering team on unique challenges rather than developing everything in-house. One of the key policies that led to quite a diversity in technologies was a fear of vendor lock-in. And it's a very common fear that circles around lots of large enterprises. But what it led to us to doing was to actually overly engineering a lot of our solutions. So we wheeled that back a little bit and said, no, actually, where we are custom engineering, that's got to be delivering really unique value for the charity. We don't want to be rebuilding things that are just commodity and can be pulled off the shelf. So that leads you to shift your engineering a little bit more towards differentiated products. So if something's available on the market, well, just grab it and use it. But even within custom engineering, that has implications as well. And that's where the cloud comes in, because you can use the cloud in many different ways. You can use the cloud and custom engineer everything. But as we know, the cloud's been developing rapidly, and a lot of things are available now off the shelf. So one of the shifts in our strategy was from quite often engineering things in quite a custom manner, running our own custom applications built in, and then running them on EC2 instances, to shifting to a more cloud native approach and taking those off the shelf services, gluing them together to create an application. And that's a real seismic shift in both a way of working and in the way we're structured as an organization, because it requires a lot less input and maintenance from our engineers.
So would you say that adopting the cloud with AWS's tools and services and support has not just enabled you to move maybe a bit quicker and a bit more efficiently, but to move differently and maybe seize opportunities that actually might not have presented themselves or proven too difficult otherwise.
Yes, so I think the primary improvement that we've seen has been the ability to move at pace, and that in itself enables you to take advantage of of different opportunities that you wouldn't be able to, because you can respond to environmental factors and you can respond to external factors much more quickly. And that was the case with Experimental Cancer Trial Finder. We spotted a gap in that market, were able to respond quickly due to the engineering foundations we had, and were able to really rapidly affect a change in that area.
Great. So we're going to come and talk to Siri in a second about the Experimental Cancer Trial Finder platform. But before we do that, Alison, if I can just come back to you again. Obviously, what Pete's been telling us about is actually, it's kind of inspirational what a charity and an organisation of such significance and importance, particularly in this country as Cancer Research UK, where there's a direct correlation between how effectively and fast people can work in this organisation and people's lives. And presumably that's reflected in the motivation on AWS's side to support people working in this sector. And is what Peter's been saying something that you can see outside of the UK as well and beyond and around the place in terms of those benefits?
Of course. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Pete. That was wonderful. And yes, around the world, nonprofits are, as we said, utilizing cloud technology for so many reasons, but it all comes back to, we think, 5 main reasons. And I think Pete encapsulated them, but to just lay them out, first is agility, that AWS lets customers just really quickly spin up the resources as they need them, and you can deploy hundreds or even thousands of servers in minutes. 2 is cost savings. So it allows nonprofits to trade capital expense for variable expense, and even more importantly, only pay for the IT and the compute they need as they consume it. And then we use a word we call elasticity, which just really means the ability to provision the resources, to make use of the resources, to scale up and down based on the business needs. And faster innovation, and that's the most exciting, is really being able to, as Pete said, focus the valuable IT resources on developing the applications and platforms that are needed to run the mission, rather than having to manage the infrastructure and the data centers. And then global deployment in minutes. So for those organizations that are worldwide, just being able to spin up those global resources, those applications, anywhere in the world, literally within minutes. And so it's really exciting to hear Pete really encapsulate all of those that make cloud computing so important, really, for nonprofits. Agility, cost savings, elasticity, innovation, and global capabilities.
Great. And talking of innovation and pace, Siri, we'll come to you. We're interested in something of a success story that's quite recent, and that's the Experimental Cancer Trial Finder, just to get the words in the right order. That's something Pete's just mentioned as something that's happened recently. What is it, and why does it matter?
Yeah, the Experimental Cancer Trial Finder is a new tool to help doctors to match patients to clinical trials. And it is a really significant problem, and as a charity we were quite optimally placed to solve this problem. So about 80% of research fails because of inadequate enrollment of patients to trials. And clinicians still are often the gatekeepers to trials. And finding trials is very difficult and slow. There are some existing trial finders out there, but the information is inaccurate, not really structured, and it's not up to date. And the 4th thing is also not really built for trial finding. These are trial registries. So that was the problem we were set to solve. How can we make finding trials easier and faster?
Great. So just for my own purposes, as a lay person, the problem here is not that the trials aren't happening, and not that the patients aren't there who would very much like to participate in the trials. It was matchmaking those people effectively, and I think what you're saying is that actually there was a fault in the system that meant that even though these things were all available, they weren't being connected. Is that right?
That's right, exactly. So clinicians nowadays have even shorter and shorter time during their clinical practice. So how can they find the right trials really quickly and easily for the patients, so that the patients will have all the different options for their treatment after they've gone through the standard therapies.
I get it. So when did this occur, and how quickly were you able to stand it up and make it do stuff? I'm guessing it's a furiously complicated world out there, so it should have taken ages, did it?
Right, so we started 2018 actually, and it was when our clinical leads came to us and said, this is a real problem. We don't have great visibility of the clinical trials. So we started in 2018, and we of course started by looking what is already out there and why they're not working. And we wanted to start quite lean. So first of all, are we able to make a trial finder where the information is up to date and accurate? If not, we shouldn't really do this, right? And secondly, are our clinicians going to use? It's quite difficult to get a product in NHS in the busy world of the clinicians. So we wanted to get some data on it. Who are going to use it? Is it pediatricians and adult treating cancer oncologists? So are we able to keep the information up to date? Is it going to be used, and what value does it provide? And we quite quickly built this initial pilot where we got this trial finding in the hands of our clinical network. Initially, we were aiming for 50 clinicians to use it across the whole of the UK. But quickly, through the success of this pilot already, we had 200 users who were piloting this trial tool. And the results were quite impactful. Already from 6 months, we saw 55% increase in the speed, ease, and feasibility of trial matching. So that is quite amazing. And 70% of our users in the first 6 months had either received or referred a patient to a trial. So these are patients that wouldn't have any other options without this trial finding tool.
Wow. So this is real lives impacted immediately, even at the very early stages. So what stage are we at now? It's a full national rollout now, is it? That's
right. Yeah, so really exciting times now for us. So after this initial pilot, we started building this tool more, and we now just started UK-wide rollout. So any clinician working in NHS can have now access to this tool.
Wow. So over the next few months, you'll start to see some serious impact. And presumably the people that are running the trials are pretty happy with this as well, right? I mean, it's a problem at both ends of the process.
Exactly, because if you don't have enough patients attending the trial, or the trial will fail or it will delay significantly, meaning those new treatments will be also delayed for the patients. So it has huge impact, hopefully, also on the delivery of the trials.
Yeah, great. So if we sort of bounce outwards again and look maybe a bit further afield, I think there's the experiences of Cancer Research UK, and not least, of course, the experiences of AWS in underpinning a lot of the technologies that are now helping Cancer Research UK are applicable to other non-profits, other charities who are also, facing the same kind of struggles. But let's understand what those struggles are. Alison, I think I'll come to you first because you've got this kind of universal perspective from where you are. How would you categorise the challenges that non-profits and charities are facing now, perhaps even more acutely than they may have done before? It's strange times, but it's also difficult times. What would you say are the main challenges they're facing?
We usually see two main challenges. The first is just resources, the ability to be able to utilize the hard-earned funds that are raised through their donors and their stakeholders, to be able to put that towards technology and technology platforms that in the end will have a tremendous return on investment. But that lack of resources in general can always be something that nonprofits need to think about and need to look at how do we best use those limited resources? And certainly we believe that cloud computing helps you do that. We see organizations, not just nonprofits, but large organizations saving between 30 to 40% in their technology costs, as well as small organizations being able to do that as well. And we know that many charities are smaller. I would say the second one is skills. So really having a skilled workforce that understands technology, that understands the cloud, that understands rapid application development. And so we are always thinking about how do we help to train, how do we help to upskill organizations as well. And we've put a number of programs together to help organizations, particularly nonprofits, to upskill their workers. Tech Action is one of those that's relatively new. That's a program that allows nonprofits and to build fundraising, donor and member engagement solutions. It's an open community to the world. We also have a number of programs for training individuals for no cost at all on the AWS website. And there are programs where we have literally committed millions of dollars to upskilling and training veterans, those in underserved communities, so that they can be those resources back to nonprofits and others to be able to really, truly utilize all of these technologies in a way that moves the mission forward.
Great. And so, Pete, from your perspective, obviously, I don't want to ask you to talk about Cancer Research UK's policies as a whole from a global perspective or anything, but from your point of view, are those the sorts of challenges that you recognise in front of you, in particular, in Cancer Research UK's part of the world?
Yeah, absolutely. I think resource challenges are always present in a charity. We're almost entirely funded by the generosity of our donors, and there's a huge obligation for us to spend that money wisely. And I think the key word there is efficiency. We as a technology department in a large charity, we have a large operation to support. We're engaged in a wide variety of activities. So we have over 650 shops across the country. We're a full retail business. We have drug discovery labs where we develop and market cancer drugs, that the profit of which then goes back into the organisation, into vital research. We have an events business, a fundraising business, a wide variety of different businesses, and the technology department supports all of those to operate. So there's no world in which we can't invest in technology. The key word is investing efficiently. And so that's always our top of mind, is how we're spending the money, and are we getting the best value out of the money that we spend on technology and in the people that we invest in to support that. And that's where skills come in. And that situation I alluded to before, where we had a large proliferation of languages and tools that we use to engineer our solutions, doesn't help with your efficiency. It means that you then have a large pool of skills that you need to develop. You have a wide range of recruiting issues that you have to manage. So aligning across some common technologies really helps you be a lot more efficient. And we've seen that really work in our engineering strategy, which ECTF is a really good example of. So in that case, aligning along JavaScript, Node.js on the back end, cloud native technologies, and using JavaScript both in the scripting languages and CDK and in our front end in React. That's really helped align all of our engineers to the same technologies. It's helped them share knowledge, and actually it's meant that when we're recruiting for people, we can recruit common skills. When we're training, we can train common skills and we spend less training. And also there's so much more knowledge share that can happen between engineers and between products.
How competitive is it? You're here, obviously. Both of you technically highly competent people. Why are you here, and what is it? How do you go about as a charity, as a non-profit, competing for those top kind of digital skills, the talent out there?
I think maybe it's about the purpose, it's about the mission. But I think the other thing that Cancer Research UK has done, from our perspective, is have the most modern technology. So if you have that opportunity to work, to grow your own skills, to be working in the cloud, which is, the most modern technology, to be working with modern languages, that's yet another reason that people might come to an organization, because it's not only for their mission and the purpose that they believe in, but also that they do get to grow their skills. And I think that that's one that we see, that those organizations that are very, very far behind, it's even harder for them to attract the right people. Those that are using the most modern technologies have that additional aspect in addition to the mission and the purpose.
You're absolutely right. And we've really aimed to take advantage of the latest technologies in every area possible, because it is a great attractor of talent. And we can't compete on simple wages with commercial organizations, but we can absolutely compete on how innovative and how forward-thinking our technology choices are. So that's really what attracts people in. It's also what retains people, and we have great success in that respect. So I suppose it's a little bit swings and roundabouts. You'll never attract someone who wages their remuneration is their main driver, but you can attract people in an awful lot of other ways. And actually at Cancer Research UK, we've always had a very flexible working environment. So what is now treated as a really great benefit, we've always had that foundation, and we've always had a great deal of flexibility around working, which came in for many organisations during the pandemic. But for us, we were ready and prepared for that. And when everyone started to work from home, we were ready for that change. So we've been able to embrace that and develop that working from home culture much more quickly than perhaps some other organisations have been able to.
And yeah, that's the really great thing I was about to add just there, that it's not only that you get really talented people here, but you get the really passionate people, and that's the environment many of us thrive, where you get to work with really mission-driven, passionate people. And the other thing maybe is that in charities, Cancer Research UK, you also get connected with very interesting people, because innovation doesn't really come from the initial innovative tool. It comes from network, right? When you bring the right people together, like an Easy Trial Finder, we brought together the clinicians, the nurses, the patients, and that's what charities can do. We can bring the people together.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose it's easy to imagine what the pull is if you've got an interesting environment to work in, where you can work in the way that is now becoming necessary for employers to allow people to work, as so many of us reassess what work actually is to us these days. To know that you can go to work and actually change the world, to change somebody's world, must be becoming more and more important. You would imagine, if you're a highly competent technician, you can go and optimize the delivery of an episode of some HBO program to Malaysia a bit, or you can go and save some lives. I mean, who cares? You're going to be sitting at home anyway. Which one are you going to choose? So, I mean, presumably, Alison, this is what, you find yourself in quite a good kind of place, because you get to look at all of this and do all of this on quite a grand scale every day, right?
Absolutely. I am so grateful every day to be able to work with organizations like Cancer Research UK and others around the world that truly have a mission, that truly have a purpose, and are delivering on that for people, for communities, for healthcare, for our planet, for the animals on our planet. it is incredibly fulfilling to be able to be a part of what everyone is doing. And I think Siri put it really, really well, that it is about having the tools, but it's not the tools. We pride ourselves in offering the best tools, but it's how people are using them and how nonprofits are innovating. And we're inspired every single day by the innovation that we see by nonprofits and NGOs around the world that are meeting the needs that often don't get met in many other ways if it weren't for the nonprofits and the NGOs.
Absolutely. So we're now sliding inexorably towards the conclusion of our little chat today. But Alison, I'll just give you one little chance. What major things should people be looking out for over the next few months, perhaps, if they're interested in what you're up to?
Well, I think first and foremost, please go to the AWS nonprofit website. There are so many programs for nonprofits to be able to take advantage of, including credit programs, training, solution reference architectures for things like donor and member experience, which we think is incredibly important because it funds everything that nonprofits are doing, and getting that foundational level of utilization and capabilities, but then to look at what is possible. And we have so many organizations that are doing just these incredibly innovative things like Cancer Research UK, but others around the world like Charity Water that are using IoT, Internet of Things devices to track water pumps in sub-Saharan Africa to make sure that clean water is always coming through for those that need it. And so there's just endless possibilities for what technology can enable for a nonprofit's mission. And the other thing I would encourage people to do is to tune in to the Imagine conference that's coming up in March 14th. You'll see that on the website as well. We'd love to have you in person, anyone in Washington, D.C., but there will be so much content that's available online as well. And to just hear from other organizations like Cancer Research UK, others from around the world that are just doing amazing things, innovating for their mission.
So you're going to be looking at quite a few interesting things over the coming months, I should think. And in terms of Cancer Research UK, what can you tell us about what the next 6 to 12 months looks like? Siri, what about you?
Yeah, we are looking at one other interesting problem at the moment. Really difficult problems, but big impact. That's where we work at the moment. So I'm not sure what to say actually here.
Well, it's obviously top secret.
That's what I think.
So, but you'll be hanging around. You won't be hurrying back to your home country of Finland. No, I won't be. There's one thing that we hear a lot about, and that is the quality of the Finnish healthcare system. So you wouldn't be blamed, I guess. But and Pete, obviously you continue your transformation journey, as it were. So what are the next steps looking like?
So a lot of more of the same, really. Our engineering strategy is proven very effective. We have a number of applications out there like eCTF, like our new payments platform, where we're drastically reducing the cost of our infrastructure and increasing the speed to market, which is it's proving extremely effective in the field. And we are now rolling out those changes to our existing applications, so re-architecting existing applications on the same lines. Those re-architectures themselves are much easier and much quicker than they would have been otherwise. And we're developing out a suite of new applications to support core functionality like taking gift aid, which is one of the fundamental requirements for any charity.
Bigger, faster, higher, stronger, despite the challenges that we've just heard about. With that, I think we'll bring things to a close. Thanks very much for a fascinating conversation. This podcast is accompanied on techforgood.net by some editorial content as well, where we'll explore some of these themes a bit more deeply. So do come along and find out more. In the meantime, thanks very much for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the Tech for Good podcast. Visit techforgood.net to listen to more or subscribe via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts or Stitcher.